Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Joey the Veiled Cottage Witch, and this is another episode of One Card in 4 Decks. We are at the end of the swords with the King of Swords. Today's crystal is lapis lazuli, which is higher communication, higher thinking, which goes perfectly with the King of Swords. The King of Swords is King, which is air, and Swords, which is air. So here we have air of air. So this is higher mind of higher thinking. So this is the top of the top. As you can see, he's on the top of the hill. You know, he's got all kinds of symbols of higher thinking. We've got clouds, we've got a sword, we've got light colors, we've got butterflies, we've got moons. Kings are the masters, right? They're the hierarchy, the highest hierarchy. And swords are, like we've said in the past in this series, swords are thinking, swords are truth, and swords are society, right? So he's at the top of society, he is the highest thinker, and he is the highest truth. So what he says goes. He is the top of the line. Nobody can argue with him. Yeah. So here we have kind of the know-it-all of the tarot. You know, he's uncontested authority. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. Remember when I talked about the page being the caterpillar, the knight being the cocoon, and the sword being the full butterfly? That's how we have this above his head here. He is the butterfly in full chrysalis. Just he's the authority on all subjects. People come to him for advisement. Because he is the authority, the end-all be-all. So that's the King of Swords. So it took me quite a while, I will let you know, because a lot of King of Swords all look the same, you guys. I had a hard time picking out outside the box King of Swords, and I think I found them. I had to raid my wife's cards for this one, because this one is her deck, and I had to dig deep in my decks to try and find some that didn't just look like this. You know, yeah, they all kind of look the same. So let's look at the Everyday Witch Tarot. He's a little bit different. Okay, so he's sitting kind of at a throne, but he's standing up. And he's got books all around him. He's in a library. Respect. Hey, he's not just saying, I know this because I know this, right? He can back it up. I respect that. He's in the library. He says, I know this because it says right here. Love that. I can get on board with this King of Swords. He can back up his authority. He can back up his research. I love that. Plus he has a cat. I'm on board with this. You know, he's not just spouting, this is what I know. Don't argue with me. He's like, it says it right here. I love that about a king, that he's not afraid to do his research. Highly respect this king. Does his homework. right? Love that. Love a king that is not afraid to do the work. Now, the Wildwood Tarot is the Kingfisher, King of Arrows, Kingfisher. First of all, look at the matchy-matchy. Do we not love that? Because I do. They're in the same colors, you guys. Look. How cool is that? So the Kingfisher bird is just as agile in the air as he is in the water catching fish. So that tells me that this King of Arrows or King of Swords is not just higher intellect above ground, but he's also higher intellect of the emotions and of the subconscious. So I thought that was really cool and very interesting, because usually the air of air is just pure thought. But this King of Air, or King of Arrows, I should say, is not just the King of Air, but he can also dive into, quote unquote, the subconscious and pull intellect from there. So I love this. This is where all water comes from, is the subconscious. So when you see water in your tarot cards, it is always the subconscious, which comes from the emotion. So that is an overarching theme, an overarching symbol that you can always use. So there you go. I love that. So I knew that was a lesson that you guys could take with you. So this is the Good Tarot by Collette Baron-Reid, which I just did a deck review of the Animal Spirit deck, Oracle. So I was like, where do I know that name? It's the Good Tarot. So my wife absolutely loves this deck, but it is kind of hard for me to read because it is very abstract. So I challenge myself every once in a while. So look at this king. Can I just say, holy smokes, like, it's half bird. He's half bird, you guys. So the King of Air here, he's half bird. So I thought that was a perfect King of Swords to use. So he, being half bird, like here, he is always in flight. So he is always comfortable being in the air, meaning he's always comfortable with critical thinking, with flying above the clouds, having those higher thoughts, higher communication. He is, but on the downside, he's ungrounded. So he's not always comfortable being strong and stable and grounded. So that's kind of his downside, I can see, right? So, but he's always wise. He's always in that higher mind. He's always in touch with his higher self, right? Always in touch with his higher self. So again, being the heir of air, always being in touch with his truth, always being in touch with clarity, and always being in touch with higher society. So he's not going to be he's not going to be talking to everyday people. He's going to be up high in his throne. Okay, so think about higher society, a little bit untouchable. Again, not very grounded, right? So that we can kind of see, but I feel like this King of Swords is very grounded. You know, you wouldn't be doing your research unless you were a little bit grounded. Again, this is my favorite King of Swords that I have found so far. So here we have the King of Swords in the Rider-Waite Smith deck. We have the King of Swords in the Everyday Witch Tarot, in the King of Arrows, the Kingfisher in the Wildwood Tarot, and the King of Air in the Good Tarot. So tell me what you guys think about the King of Air. How do you interpret your King of Swords in your decks? And how does it differ from these interpretations? And how do you feel being done with the swords? I am so happy to be done with the swords. They're such a difficult they're easy to interpret, but they're kind of a bummer. And so I'm glad to be done, and I'm ready to move on to the Pentacles. The Pentacles are so relatable. I'm super excited to move on to them and get to move on to more material things. And yes, to move on to those Pentacles. Love it. Everyday relatable things. Let's do it. Be sure to check out my website at theveiledwitch.com. Be sure to check out my herbal store, but be sure to enter at checkout the code word veiled to get your free shipping. You can also book a tarot reading with Bobby Fierro from Wild Raven Tarot, who is an excellent tarot reader. You can book an energy work session with me, which is in person or online. Yeah, very interesting experience. Some say life-changing. I get one on Tuesday, and I'm so excited about it. You can also just make sure you give this video a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more content. You can also financially support this channel by buying me a coffee. You can enter any price range you want. That is super helpful for me. It helps me keep this channel going. Yeah, that's super, super helpful for me. Otherwise, live your best life and live for yourself. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.